Hello everyone, what is up? It is me, Ewan from WhatCulture Gaming, aka the fella that just got to review Ghost of Tsushima this week. I really did enjoy the game. I gave it a big old 4 stars out of 5. You can go check out the review right now. It is over on the channel, and also the written version is at whatculture.com/gaming if you like to use your peepers to read. I don't know, I won't judge. But yeah, after we put the review out, we also asked you for some questions regarding the review itself, or just the game that I am now going to answer, seeing as how I've spent the 90% of my life over the past 2 weeks playing this game. So yeah, don't worry, this will all be spoiler free. There'll be no story spoilers, don't worry. I'm not that kind of person. But yeah, let's get into those questions right now. Okay, so our first question comes in on Twitter, and it is from Bill Bo Baggins. The Bill is the first name, and then the Bo Baggins is the second. That's really annoying. But he asks, I love a blend of stealth and action-adventure, Hitman, Batman Arkham, Uncharted, Sniper Elite, without too much crafting RPG elements. Does this fit the bill? Keep in mind, I've been anxiously awaiting the release for 2+ years. The short answer is yes. Tsushima isn't going to boggle you with so many crafting and resource mechanics. It's all very simple, and you know, Arkham being such a touchstone of the action-adventure genre over the past 2 console generations, I would say it has a lot of common in that game, and especially with that franchise, but also Assassin's Creed. It's not going to keep you bogged down with loads of different RPG mechanics or different crafting things or anything. It's definitely a linear game in the sense that obviously, you know, it is an open world title, but the story is very much a linear narrative. You know, you are basically, this is the story of Jin Sakai, you are going through there, and it doesn't try to overcomplicate matters at all or whatever. And if that's your jam, a very good story-driven game with a very polished action mechanics, then yeah, I would definitely say this should be right up your alley. Jack Griffiths asks, with no map/HUD, is the wind waypoint fluid and easy to follow? Also, does it have a nice trophy list? Well, I'll let you off there, Jack, because that is 2 questions, but I will answer both. Yeah, I pointed this out in my review actually. I think that Tsushima's, the best thing about this game, and one of the main criticisms that I've seen from other reviewers, is that in terms of, you know, its place in the open world genre, it doesn't innovate that much. Now, to me, that kind of really, it takes away from the fact that Sucker Punch have put so much effort into the art direction of the game and the way that you navigate the open world. The guiding winds is a thing that really comes into play there. And for me, it was a massive breath of fresh air. I've also had a few people ask me if there is a more traditional waypoint system to be used there. There isn't. You know, Sucker Punch really encourage you to basically explore the open world and encounter different tales organically. As I mentioned in the review, that doesn't always happen for the best. You could have your mind set on a given objective that you've basically heard about, and then you'll encounter about 2 different side missions and a fox and a bird, and you'll get really discombobulated and be like, I can't help you all right now, and it'll get quite stressful. But on the whole, the guiding wind stuff works very well. There are occasions where it'll try and take you up vertical paths, which, you know, obviously you can't do, but it's very rare that you'll ever get stuck on a different level. If it is taking you downwards and you can't find a road to hook around, there are usually grappling hook points to grapple down with, or different cliffs to scale, or whatever. As Jin, you just have to get off your horse. But yeah, I really enjoyed the guiding wind mechanics. It was easy enough to follow, and I would encourage people, you know, if it's taking you through grassy woodland, to definitely try that and go through that way, but also to do your best to use landmarks as a guiding feature in and of itself. Those will really help you. Following the roads will take you down some interesting paths. And also some things to be wary about going on the roads. You will have Mongol soldiers who patrol it, as well as bandits. So there are different things to basically bear in mind there. But yeah, the guiding winds I really, really enjoyed. It was a massive breath of fresh air to actually not have loads of icons and UI all over the place. It's a very, I'm trying to think of the right word here. It's very clean. It's a very nice game to jump into and basically just take in the environment. You don't have any kind of menus or objective symbols cluttering up the screen. Everything that's there is just the game. It's just the environment and what you see in front of you. So that is very refreshing. And I know some people will probably be a bit, annoyed that they don't have a traditional waypoint mechanic. I would definitely just say to embrace the game and just trust what Sucker Punch are doing here, because I think it definitely works for the better. Oh, and the trophy list. Yeah, the trophy list is really good. I couldn't actually access it to begin with, and I eventually did, and it's a fairly easy trophy list. I want to say there are a few hidden ones that I haven't figured out yet, but I'm fairly certain I know what they are. But yeah, I'm nearly 100% in the game right now, and yeah, it's not a difficult 100%, I want to say, given that I only have like 3 or 4 trophies left. But you know, a nice breadth of stuff to do, kind of in a similar way to Spider-Man PS4, I would say. Now, this one is not from anyone specifically. It's a question that we got from a lot of different people, and that was, is the game like Assassin's Creed? And the answer is yes and no. I think it's a disservice to compare it to Assassin's Creed in the sense that, you know, Assassin's Creed didn't invent the open world, historically focused video game title. And Ghost of Tsushima does have a lot in common with that series in the sense that, you know, you do ride a horse to get around, you do have, there are convenient landmarks to help you do vertical stealth kills, and you have different weapons to do stealth kills and all that sort of stuff. And in a way, I guess you could say it did remind me a little bit of the older Assassin's Creed games, back when I personally thought that the series had a distinct identity. I think right now, you know, it's very much, without going off on too much of a tangent, Assassin's Creed is in a very strange position right now, and it is almost unrecognizable to the games that it was, you know, well, the games that they were pre-Origins. But yeah, I mean, obviously, people in the Assassin's Creed fandom have been crying out for a feudal Japanese game for years now. And yeah, I mean, you could say that there are definitely similarities there. The stealth in particular, I feel as though it's not as well done as Assassin's Creed, but there are definitely inspirations from there. Whereas the combat itself, I would compare to different games, which I'll get to in another question further down the line. This question is from James O'Brien, and he asks, I was planning on doing individual Samurai and Ghost playthroughs in the vein of Infamous's Karma Paths. Is this possible, and if so, are both playstyles equally catered for, or does the game force you to use one over the other? So this is a bit of a tricky question in the sense that you definitely could do this, although whether I would encourage you to do that is a different thing entirely. One of the things I mentioned in my review is that Sucker Punch have done a fantastic job here. In terms of, you know, the story itself is great, the cutscenes are fantastic, they're very cinematic, but I feel as though you do kind of resonate more so with Jin's journey when you make kind of these decisions to behave more like the ghost the further you get into the game. And there's a very clever thing that Sucker Punch do here where they make it relatively easy to start off the game and fight like a samurai. They have a fantastic mechanic called the standoff mechanic where you will basically approach an enemy encampment, press up on the directional pad, and you'll enter a standoff, and that's when you walk up and you approach them head on, and you're like, send me your finest warrior and I will cut them to ribbons, and basically that happens, and you hold triangle, and then you release triangle right as your opponent is about to attack you, and that gives you an insta-kill, and eventually you can upgrade that mechanic so that you can take on multiple enemies in one standoff. There's actually a piece of armor you can get that lets you take down up to 5 enemies, which is fantastic when that gets pulled off. However, the further you get into the game, the more the Mongols and the bandits and the other enemies that are in the game kind of basically disrupt your ability to do standoffs effectively. They employ little tricks, little feints to really put you off balance. And while again, it's still definitely possible to do that, I wouldn't encourage it, and I definitely think the narrative lends itself more to the fact that you start off as the samurai and then become the ghost. It's very much a story about how, you know, whether it's historically accurate or not, you know, the samurai's tactics at the time just can't compete with the Mongol armies, and Jin is forced to basically reckon with that and, you know, adopt the mantle of the ghost to do that. So, I mean, by all means, you could totally play one playthrough the entire samurai way, but you would feel a certain narrative dissonance going on there because the story, meanwhile, if you were just attacking people head on, meanwhile you've got other characters both praising you and chastising you for behaving like the ghost and employing all these different tactics, you would feel kind of a little bit miffed, I guess, if you were putting the effort into doing that thing. But this isn't like Infamous. It isn't a case where you have clear and cut decisions as you play the game and those will have forked narrative paths. This is very much the story of how Jin Sakai goes from being a samurai to becoming the Ghost of Tsushima, and that is something that I think players should embrace. Obviously, you have the freedom to do whatever you want, but that's something to bear in mind, basically. Goshin Kayan asks on Twitter, what's your read on the AI and the stealth mechanics? They seem to be pointed out by most as the weakest parts. Also, there's talk of downgraded graphics in places. Is there some truth to this? Thank you. Well, thank you for the question. The answer here is I definitely feel as though if I could go back and look at the review again, I definitely feel as though I potentially got caught up too much in the beauty of the actual non-stealth mechanics of the gameplay. I think the actual non-stealth combat is fantastically handled and very frenetic and fast and cinematic and great. But you're right, yeah, the stealth mechanics, they definitely could be better. And I guess the reason why I wasn't too surprised that they weren't too layered is that I haven't played a compelling stealth game in God knows how long. I think the last stealth game the last game where I thought stealth was done right, apart from Hitman, I guess, was the Phantom Pain Metal Gear Solid 5. And I feel as though a lot of AAA action-adventure titles, they really don't know how to do stealth the way that I want stealth to be done. And the problem with Tsushima is that I think the stealth is fine, it's functional. There was never a point in the game where I was like, oh, this is really bad, or I don't feel as though it's not challenging. I don't know, it wasn't as challenging as I would have liked it to be, actually. I think the main issue is that if you are in an enemy camp, and it's quite a big enemy camp, if you get spotted and you end up taking down a few guys with an explosion or like a different ability or whatever, there will be other enemies in the camp who won't be alerted to your presence. A lot of the enemies in this game seem to be very hard of hearing. I think sometimes when you alert an enemy, they'll have like a big toot on their horn, and that will alert more enemies to come. But I definitely think the stealth is an area that could have been improved. There are a lot of easy places to basically get the drop on your opponents, and I feel as though there were different things that, I just missed the days of sound bars and light and shadow mechanics, and maybe that's something that Sucker Punch could improve with a sequel. But yeah, definitely I think the stealth mechanics could have been a case that they should have been improved. And yeah, in regards to the graphics, I definitely think you could go back, and I did actually look back on the E3 2018 gameplay after playing through the game, and yeah, you can look at that and say, well, there has been potentially a bit of a downgrade. I played on the PlayStation 4, just a base model PS4, and I still maintain that it's the most beautiful looking game that I've played. Not in terms of the technical kind of capabilities of the game itself. I think if we're going to look at the best looking games on the PlayStation 4 in terms of titles that really show its power and all the different things that go there, you'd point out something like Red Dead Redemption 2 or a Batman Arkham Knight or Uncharted 4 or Last of Us 2 or whatever. But the thing about Tsushima is that the art direction is so great. You have that saturation of colors, and there was never a point playing this game where I was like, this looks naff. There are a few character models, as I mentioned in the review, that aren't that great, but on the whole, I think it is just a stunning looking game. And I can't get too wound up on graphical downgrades because they never really seem to weigh on me that much, unless it's something along the lines of a Watch Dogs or a Division. But I definitely don't think that there's been any malarkey in terms of Tsushima's graphical capabilities being misrepresented by Sucker Punch. I think it's very much a beautiful looking game, and one of the best ones to actually, whenever to be fair, the PlayStation 4 fan I have just goes like a jet turbine all the time, but I never had a point playing this game where I looked at the graphics and thought, that doesn't look right. I think it looks very, very beautiful, and a lot of that comes down to the art direction. Evan Dance asks, at what point is the whole world fully explorable? Tsushima opens up just after the intro. There's a fantastic moment where you basically kind of get launched into the open world, and it's so beautiful and serene, and definitely one of my favorite intros that I've ever experienced in a video game. That being said, the way that the open world works in the title is that you have 3 key areas of the map. and each area is opened up with the completion of a specific act. So if you want to move up to the northernmost tip of the map, you're going to have to complete the first 2 acts. So the entire world, in terms of the actual first chunk of that island, is explorable right from the off. But going further north, you have to complete the story. My eyes! Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark asks, I want to know how long does it take to finish the game and if there's New Game Plus in this game. This one, I mean, I mentioned again in the review, Sucker Punch before release, that Ghost of Tsushima should take between 30 and 50 hours to 100%, and I can definitely see the estimate being a little bit accurate. As I said, I've been playing the game non-stop since I was given the chance to. Obviously, I've been working during the day and then playing on the weekends, but also playing in the evenings. And I believe I'm close to the 30-hour mark. I've done most of the stuff in the island now. The last things for me to get are basically collectibles, and there are a lot of collectibles in the game. So you could say that's, you know, that's artificially extending the actual lifespan of the game, but it doesn't feel egregious. I mean, it's a very big, beefy game, and it's one of those things that you shouldn't rush through. There are so many different side tales in this game to basically enjoy as you're playing the main story. And it's one of those things where I think, you know, you should basically embrace the idea that you're playing you're exploring, and whenever you find a new thing, you should do that thing, would be my advice. It's a very long game. I definitely think you get value for money in terms of what you're getting here. It's longer than Spider-Man PS4, and yes, very enjoyable, very long. I mean, if some people will probably say it's too long, but I thought it was just the right amount of time with the game. And I've still got a few more things to do, kind of just tedious collectible finding, but apart from that, I think it's a very good size. Lee Sutton asks, is it Soulsy? There were a few people in the comment section of the review when I pointed out that, you know, the combat in this game is of a post-Souls era, that they thought that I was just comparing it to Dark Souls. I'm not saying that you are, Lee, either, but that's not what I meant by that. What I meant was that the game itself is very much of these titles that we've seen after the release of Dark Souls that have really made combat more than just a button mashy affair where you can do X, Y, and Z to basically just win. It's considered, it's thoughtful, and if I was going to compare it to any title, actually, it would be Jedi Fallen Order, which again, obviously owes a lot to Dark Souls in a great many ways. The combat is like Fallen Order's, only with more depth, so you have different stances that you can use in combat, and well, there were definitely points where, I mean, I think early on I died quite a bit. And there are certain points where you can be overwhelmed, and it really is a game where you have to think about what you're doing with your attacks. At some point, you will get enough in your arsenal to basically spam your way to victory, but the game should be played smarter than that. And yeah, there were definitely there were boss battles that I died to quite a bit, but it's nowhere near as punishing as a Sekiro or a Dark Souls. It's very much of that kind of not Souls-esque vein, but again, kind of those titles that we've seen where more and more studios and developers are looking at how they make their games a little bit more challenging and a little bit more thoughtful and considered. And I think Tsushima strikes the right balance there. There are definitely challenging aspects to the combat. I think there's a great difficulty curve there. You know, that same mantra of easy to learn, but harder to master, and I think it does that very well. SimX asks, photo mode is why I bought this game. Please tell me it's good, ? Yeah, photo mode is good. In fact, I did have a line in the review to begin with where I was just gushing over how I can't wait to see people who are better at doing photo modes in games than I am actually get their hands on Tsushima's. It was the same with Spider-Man PS4. I was ecstatic when I was seeing all the cool different things that people were coming up with there, and this is definitely one of the best photo modes that I've certainly encountered. You can do so much to basically craft all sorts of gorgeous imagery, and given that literally you could be doing nothing in this game and you'll look at something and go, wow, that's so pretty, there certainly isn't a shortage of opportunities to do really, really impressive stuff with photo mode. You can change Jin's facial expressions, you can change the particle effects to have different things appear as you're taking the photos. And yeah, no, the photo mode is fantastic. You're gonna have so much fun. If you want to just create lush images, postcards from Tsushima. You could definitely do that. Bman32X asks, why only 4 stars? This question, I think it's wrong to say only 4 stars, bearing in mind 4 stars is like, apart from it being 4.5 stars, that's the closest you can get to a game getting a perfect score. Now, obviously, a perfect score does not mean that the game is perfect in and of itself. It's more to indicate, general quality. And, people love and both hate review scores. I feel as though it's the danger when you put one on a review, people tend to just focus on the score and nothing else. But the reason why I gave it 4 stars is because I think it's a genuinely great game. A 4-star game in my mind is an 8 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10, something along those lines game, where I feel as though it is genuinely great, but just shy of, that it needs that extra bit of oomph to take it into that next bracket. And the thing that I found with Tsushima is that even though I thought the story was fantastic, the open world was incredible, the combat was great and fun, there were certain things that brought it down for me. Like I said, the idea of exploring the map and then being hit in the face with a side quest, and I've already focused on one other thing to do, or the lack of polish when it came to non-essential cutscenes. It really does take you out the moment when you're playing this game, and you have these really gorgeous cinematics as you're playing the main story, only to then be treated to this kind of almost PS2-esque cutscene where you have 2 characters and the camera is set from a distance and moving between 3 fixed positions. It really does take you out the moment, and I feel as though that's something that, if you think of something like Red Dead, and obviously not everyone can be Rockstar, and there is a human cost to the detail they put in their games. But if you were to play Red Dead Redemption 2, every single stranger mission you encounter is animated like a cinematic. Whereas in Tsushima, you have a lot, and I'm gonna say now, I think the vast majority of cutscenes in this game aren't even of the kind of one where it's close in zoomed kind of thing. When I think of like the Arkham style cutscenes where you'd be talking to a character and the camera would move back and forth, a lot of them are that distanced fixed shot, which is very disappointing when you're doing so much else in the game. That said, I didn't think that was enough to ruin it or anything. And again, like we mentioned earlier, the stealth could definitely have been better. But yeah, 4 stars is a great score, man. It's a great score. I can't really say that 4 stars. I think 4 stars is a great score. That's all I'm gonna say. 4 stars is a great score. It is nothing to be ashamed of. It is a great game. 3 stars is a great game as well. So yeah, maybe we have to just focus less on review scores, but 4 stars I think is a great score for this game to have, in the sense that I know what I'm doing. I'm going off on a tangent right now. 4 stars is fine. I feel if someone said that I was 4 stars, I'd go, you know what? That's fine. It's fine. Don't rate me in the comments below, please don't. And lastly, Spirit Forger asks, are there any difficulty modes? Yes, there are difficulty modes. There are 3 different tiered modes, if I remember correctly. There's the easy mode, the normal mode, and then the harder mode. I played on the normal mode because I feel as though that is the game that the developers want you to play it on, because that's the best, most accurate representation of what they're doing. And yeah, there are certain points where I died quite a bit in this game on normal, so I definitely think it's challenging enough on normal. But it basically depends on what you want from it going forward. If you want to try it on hard, be my guest. It could probably be very punishing on that difficulty. But yeah, 3 difficulty modes, easy, normal, and hard. And I played on normal and got my ass kicked on plenty of occasions. And yeah, that was our little Ask the Reviewer segment on Ghost of Tsushima. But yeah, please let me know if you're looking forward to the game down in the comments below. If you've already actually, picked it up, because it is Friday, that'll be very exciting. I hope you all enjoy the game. And once you've done that, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and head back on over to whatculture.com/gaming for more news, lists, articles, and Q&As like this. Maybe not every day, but every time a game comes out. As always, you can find me on Twitter @EwanRuinsThings, and I'll basically see you all next time. Hopefully I'll be honing my photo mode skills, because I'm nowhere near it. I feel so inadequate when I see all the cooler photo mode people online, just messing with the depth of field and the lighting. Teach me, please. Bye.